Here is our first example. So we're talking about a mean, and look at that right off the bat, the mean height. That's a good indication that we're going to do the mean. Look, we have a level of significance, we have information in here. The only way we're going to be able to distinguish between proportion and mean are the words that are used. All right? That's going to help us when we set up our hypothesis and to play that out. So let's do this. The mean height of American males in general is 176.3 centimeters. The heights of the 44 male U.S. presidents, and it's 44 because Grover Cleveland was twice but non-consecutive, however, his height was the same. So there have technically been 45 presidents, but okay. So in case you're like, wait, well, that's a typo. No. Washington through Trump, all right, have a mean 180.1 centimeters, standard deviation of 7.1 centimeters. Treating the 44 presidents as a simple random sample, determine if there is evidence to suggest that U.S. presidents are, keyword alert, taller than the average American male. And here's our level of significance. All right, so I found that interesting. So I did a little converter just because I wanted to know, because I don't talk in centimeters, really. So this, just, for fun, is 69.4 inches, which is 5'9", right? So 5'9" is the average American male height. The average president height here is 70.9 inches, right? Under 6 foot, because 6 foot would be 72 inches, right? So still under 6 foot that we're looking at. I just thought that was interesting. It has nothing to do with our problem. That's just a little extra for you. So that, I mean, we're doing these word problems and with actual data, so let's figure this out, right? I find it interesting, so of course I think you do too. So when you're doing mean, all right, I'm going to scroll this back. The sample is obtained with a simple random sampling, done. The sample has no outliers and the population from which the sample is drawn is normally distributed. Yep, American males, right? So we're good. And it's a huge, large sample. Check. The samples are independent and the sample's less than 5%. Yes, yes, yes. Right? Our sample of 44 is definitely less than 5% all of American males. Nailed it. Now we're jumping in here to the step 1 is going to be setting up our hypothesis testing. So I have in step 1, H naught and alternative hypothesis. Now we're talking about a mean, so we're using mu as our symbol there, right? So what is my null hypothesis? What is it that we're making the comparison to? Yes, the mean height of all American males, which is 176.3 centimeters. Now what are we trying to figure out? If the presidents are taller, right? Statistically significant taller than this. So we're going to make this greater than 180.1. Oh, shoot. What am I doing? Oh, I hope you're yelling at me, because if you are, you're doing a great job. That's not what I'm trying to say. I looked at just below it. 176.3, because here's the deal. When you set this up, this is the comparison. I'm saying the mean of my alternative is taller than what I started with, right? Taller than what I started with. It was just my silly little eyes taking this and this were right next to each other. So because of that, pay attention yourself. What I should have done was looked right here so that I can just rewrite it, because it's always going to be the exact same thing. So that's on me, but I want to make sure that you're good with what just went down there. Okay, now step 2 is come up with our p-value. So this is, let's write out our steps, our stat crunch steps, because we're going to do the same thing, stats. But this is a mean. So instead of going to proportion, which is what our other one was, this is going to be t-stats, because we're using the t-distribution, right? And then the same thing. We're going to do t-stats. Then we're going to do one sample. And then it's going to go to, well, either with summary or with data. We're going to do a data one, so either way. So with summary or with data, the ones that we're doing right here is with summary, but you could also do with data because that's going to be our next example. So it just depends on what the problem's giving you, right? Same thing as all of it. So let's find our p-value. Swing it over here to StatCrunch. Stat T, one sample, and then this one is going to be with summary because I don't have a table of data. If I had a table of data, then we would put that in there. I'm going to swing this back just so you can see what's going on with this. Our information. I have a mean of 180.1 and a standard deviation of 7.1, and 44 is my sample. So whenever, I'm going to scoot this over. Oh, you can't see that. 44 is the sample there, right? So that goes here. Sample means sample standard deviation, sample size. So what's my sample? The sample is the 44 presidents. My comparison that I'm going to go with here is all American males, but my sample is what I pull from here. See that? Okay, so I'm going to scoot this out of the way, and we're going to put this in. So my sample mean is 180.1. My sample standard deviation is 7.1, and my size is 44. Now again, with the hypothesis testing, it already gives me my mu, and so I have this at 176.3 because that's our comparison of what we're going with, and I want to say this is taller. So with that being taller, then I compute, and there is my p-value. There's the t-stat. If we were to do the formula, we would come up with this value. All right, but here is my p-value of 0.0005. So let's put that in here. We have a p-value of, oops, I don't need to do that. I need to do this, of 0.0005 is what we came up with there, right? All right, so we are now going to make the comparison. So my comparison here, if the p-value is less than my level of significance, we reject. I need to learn how to spell. Reject the null. So my p-value of 0.0005, oh my pencil went a little crazy there. Is that less than my level of significance here of 0.05? Is it? Yes. So because of that, we know that yes, that is accurate. So we are going to reject the null. And then we state our conclusion. So if we are rejecting the null, right, we are rejecting what we started with. We are changing our minds, right? So is there sufficient evidence to make us change our minds? Yes. Yes, there is. There is sufficient evidence to conclude that U.S. presidents are taller than the typical, I'm going to scoot this up a little bit, American male. Now I'm going to squeeze it down so we can see the whole thing, right? You get your null alternative. We're talking about a mean. This one happened to be greater than. You get your p-value from StatCrunch. You determine its relationship with your level of significance. If this statement is true, we reject. Was it? Yup. That means there is sufficient evidence to conclude that they are taller. So we reject the null, meaning that we are changing our minds. All right? Cool. We've got this. This is no big deal at all.